Hey everybody, it's Miss C, doing one of our, well actually it's our second to last stitch. Imagine that on our nice little stitch sampler of Amazing. And it's not really a stitch this time. This is needle felting. It is probably a lot easier than stitching for some of you kids because it is basically just stabbing repeatedly with passion. But to do a little bit of setup, you are going to need some different tools. First off, you're going to need a little sponge. We have these dense foam sponges. You can also use memory foam sponges of some kind. I would not suggest anything super loose like a kitchen sponge. A kitchen sponge won't work so nicely for you. You will also need a needle felting needle. They look like this. They have like a little right angle at the top, and then they have this little pointy corner. Be gentle with these. These are very thin needles, as you can see. And they're special needles. This is not a needle like what we've been using to sew. Along this little shaft here, they're actually little barbs because needle felting is a felting process, and felting is just tangling with purpose. Like if you take your hair and you scrub, 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 and never brush, eventually it will be tangled and almost to the point of essentially felting. Also, if you've ever thrown a wool sweater in the washing machine and pulled it out and it shrunk about to the size of a doll, it's because you accidentally felted it in the machine. You've caused a bunch of knots. So you will need these two things, and you will need a piece of yarn or some other fibrous material. You can do this with wool, you can do this with hair. I'm just using a piece of acrylic yarn. Note that that piece of yarn is longer than the overall length I'm trying to get. Some of this will shrink a little bit as it's stabbed through the fabric. All right, now I am going to take this off the hoop. I don't need the hoop on in order to do this particular step, nor even my last stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Always make sure to put these back together and close it up before putting this away. I don't want to lose each piece. So that's put together. Set that aside. All right, so foam is here so that whenever I'm stabbing through my fabric, I don't stab my table. So that needs to go on the bottom. Then I'm going to put my fabric on top. This fabric could be something like a jean jacket, honestly. I've seen a lot of people felt really cool things onto shirts and jackets. I'm going to lay my yarn, in this case, exactly where I want to felt on top of. And then I'm going to stab repeatedly with this little needle. I'm trying not to hold my yarn super tightly because, as I said, this is also shoving tiny fibers of this yarn down through the fabric. So if I pick this up, you can see that all of these pieces have been stabbed through. That's what I'm looking for. That's important. Also, you'll notice that if I continue to stab, oops, it's not catching that little piece. I'll figure it out. As I continue to stab, if I keep stabbing, I will eventually shove a whole bunch of this fiber through to the other side of my fabric and into the sponge itself. You'll notice I can lift it. You have to, every 30 or so stabs is what I would suggest, flip this over, make sure that it peels up, and you also want to stab some of these back into the other side. You felt from both sides of your fabric. That will get the most tangliness of your strings. So you're going to be folding this over, stabbing, 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 repeatedly, 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 until this is no longer fluffy. The idea is to stab so much that it's no longer sticking up, that it is flat against your fabric. You will know that you've felted enough if you can kind of feel that it's there, but it's not sticking up anymore. That does take a bit of time. So I've done some stabbing, gonna flip it over, gonna do more stabbing, stab it. Be aware when you are choosing materials to felt onto other materials. What you felt to really doesn't matter. As I said, jean jackets, t-shirts, sweaters, wool things, anything fabric you can felt to. When you're choosing what to felt with, something fluffy is the easiest to catch. If it is thinner, like embroidery thread, like what we've been using for all our other stitches, this can felt, but it takes a lot more precision, it takes a lot more time. Finding something fluffier or thicker, like this yarn right here, is gonna do you a lot easier. And so for now, it's just gonna be stab, stab, stab until it is completely flat. All right, so I have been stabbing for a couple of minutes now, and I do want to point out that you do want to finish by stabbing from the front, because eventually you have a lot less of the little fuzzies coming through, but you do want them to be coming through onto your back side rather than your front, just for the sake of having it look neat. Now, I do feel this, and it is much flatter than it was before if you compare this to a piece of regular thread or the regular yarn. This is doubled up yarn, and this is singular, and this is still more fat. So it is pretty dang flat, which is exactly what we're looking for. When you are finished, then you need to return your tools to a safe place. The needles for this, you do need to be very careful. Remember that I am stabbing right in, right out. If you bend it, this is thin and it will break. And when it breaks, we don't want it going into your finger. It is barbed. So we're gonna go ahead and put it away immediately and not worry about it so much because we don't want it to break. But that is needle felting. Easiest stitch.